let's start from the top. How about that?
Hey, I'm here with Pastor Braden, and we want to debrief this last Sunday sermon. A real exciting Sunday in some ways, because as you guys are sticking around Sunrise, we prayed for you guys. Pastor Braden and Pastor Lisa installed you guys as pastors. We'll talk more about that in the future of what role you guys are going to take. But you were in the Proverbs series, and some of the big things you were talking about were relationships, community. So hit us with what you were talking about.
Yeah, we just noticed in this new season, the churches reopening, that congregations look very different. So we were kind of thinking about this idea of community and what does Scripture say about community. So we touched on Proverbs 27:17, iron sharpening iron, man sharpening one another, and then also Acts 2, where we see the day of Pentecost and the community of believers being born. And from that, we just kind of pulled that we need to live life alongside one another. You see all throughout Scripture that God himself lives in community, in the Trinity. In creation, God creates community because man shouldn't be alone. We should have people in our lives, and it's just, you see all throughout Scripture. And then
you said at one point that he is pursuing a people in the Old Testament for himself, to have a people for himself, which is part of the story of Israel.
Yeah, and just it's escalated when we see Jesus come and establish the community of Jesus, which we talked about how in our culture, we have the choice on who we find common ground with. That's one of the privileges we have in living in North America, that it's at a click of a button, I decide who's friends with me on Facebook, who I'm following, who I'm blocking, but then it seeps into our social circles, into church life, into school life, work life. We have a choice on what common ground we have with people. And we just talked about how when it comes to the community of believers, often we can become pretty selective of, we can avoid people, we can choose not to care for people, but when it boils down to it, Jesus is our common ground. That is really the only common ground we should have as the basis of whether you're going to love someone or care for someone.
So give us a couple handles or application points. What does that mean for us who are believers and who want to live in community and really want to honor the word as it calls us into community? What are a couple things practically that we should do from this message?
Yeah, I think one of the first things is, like, Sunday morning shouldn't be the only time that we interact with people,
100%.
We see in the book of Acts that daily life was infused with one another. And so moving beyond just our Sunday morning to be involved in people's lives, but then also just to go out of our way to do life with new people. Our congregation looks very new. There's not a lot of new people that have needs. And so even just evaluating, how can I be the presence of Jesus to someone? Bonhoeffer talks about how for the Christian in need, the physical presence of a believer is the sign of the presence of the triune God. So thinking of even practically, if there's someone who's single and lives alone this week, maybe they need to spend time with people. Invite them over for a meal, go for coffee, reach out to them. Evaluate if there's a family in need, how can you meet their needs? As simple as getting them groceries.
Yeah, that's good stuff. And the truth is that when we live like that, even in believers, we look different than the world. We're transforming the world around us because we're living in a way that's kind of Jesus-like and is maybe countercultural. And so I'd encourage you today, even as you live into that and you decide, hey, who could I be the presence of Jesus to? Who could I manifest his love to today? That God will take you even outside the community you know of believers and into others. So hey, check out this whole sermon that's on YouTube and Facebook, and we would love for you to connect with us at Sunrise. God bless.
God bless.